What up, guys? Your boy Quake back with a brand new episode of the Diverse Mentality Podcast, number 388. And I want to first say I apologize for not releasing the podcast episode that was supposed to come out on Monday. That's because I ended up getting very sick. Usually when I'm sick, I can record the podcast regardless. I just got to muster up like 2 hours worth of energy, and I can usually power through it. But this time, I ended up getting a stomach virus. I think it's probably from something that I ate, maybe at a restaurant, something like that, because I recorded Wednesday night's episode that came out, the last episode you guys heard. And I was feeling a little funny that night, but I was like, okay, not a big deal. You know, sometimes you don't feel 100%. Perfectly fine. I wake up Thursday morning and my stomach is just in insane pain. Like the second I got up, I was like in pain. No energy, just feeling horrible. So I was like, okay, this might just be, some type of sickness. I'm going to get through it. No, not a big deal. So that whole day I was just laying in bed, basically doing nothing. I mean, just watching things and just laying in bed all day, getting my energy up, eating, drinking a lot of water, all this. So I was like, maybe tomorrow I'll see how this is. If it's getting worse, I'll go to the doctor. If it's not, and it's getting better, I'll be fine and just power through it, right? Friday comes and it's bad. It's worse. Just the second I get up, pain. Yeah, I'm not going to get into insane detail because it's worse than that, but because I don't want to discuss you guys in any way, but it was bad. So then that afternoon, I was like, let me just go to urgent care. Went there and, they did some tests. They found out it was a stomach virus. They gave me some antibiotics and they said, hey, take these for a week, which I'm taking right now. And they're like, let me know if you're feeling better. If you're not, come back, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. So yeah, I was just no energy. That Saturday morning, I started taking, actually I took the antibiotics Friday night is when I started because you have to take them every 12 hours, 2 times. So I wanted to take them at a time that I know I can take them at night and wake up in the morning and take them every 12 hours. So I decided 11 at night is when I'm going to take it. Then 11 in the morning, I'll take it again. 11 at night, you get the point, every 12 hours. So yeah, Saturday still was pretty bad, but not bad. Sunday, I started feeling better. But it was not enough for me to have the energy to be recording the podcast. It just wasn't. I would have been on here just barely getting through it. So I was just like, let me not record it because it's not going to be a good episode at all if I do that. So yeah, that's why I didn't have the episode. Then Monday I started feeling a little bit better. Tuesday started feeling better. Wednesday, which is now when I'm recording, feeling a little bit better. I'm 60 to 70% back to normal. So I can do the podcast regardless. I'm still, I'm not getting proper sleep. So it's a little affecting my mood and my energy here and there. But right now I just had a Red Bull because I usually don't have Red Bulls later in the afternoon. I stopped drinking Red Bulls in terms of energy and stuff later in the afternoon. I don't take anything caffeine. Once 2 or 3 in the afternoon comes, I stop drinking any type of caffeine because it starts to mess with my sleep and I don't want that. So that's when I stop usually taking any type of caffeine. But because I'm so low on energy, I'm just let me pop a Red Bull right now, which I did. Because I would have been still a little bit low energy recording this. But yeah, that was basically why I didn't record, just overall sick. I was going to do the J. Cole album review of The Fall Off here, but on this episode, but I was I haven't had a proper chance to listen to it in full. I listened to the first disc and halfway through the second disc. So I want to go over it a little bit more, digest the music. Actually, no, today I finished the second disc. I'm tripping. So I finished the whole album, but I want to digest it a little bit more to give a proper review because off first listen, I can't really gauge things that well. I'm just being honest with you guys. I don't want to give you guys a half-assed review or anything half-assed. So the next episode, I will review the full album and give my thoughts on it. I will say this. It's disappointing. Let's just say that. It's not what I expected from this album, and I think it's because it's a double disc. I will say that the double disc is very hard to pull off. To have a bunch of great tracks on there, it's just very hard. Too many songs, so you're gonna miss. With that much music on one CD, everyone's gonna miss. It's very hard to get a double disc type of album to do very good. So I will say that it is fairly disappointing. It has its highs, but it has a lot of lows. So with that being said, expect my review to basically lean towards me not really enjoying this album like I thought I would. But I'll give kind of more of my take on that, of why on Monday's episode. With that being said, I've been getting feedback from you guys about whether I should do 2 episodes a week still or just 1 episode a week. If you missed the last episode, you don't know what I'm talking about. Basically, when the podcast first started, it was 1 episode a week. Then I did it to 2 episodes a week because as I had, co-hosts with me, I wanted to get news out quicker. But now that it's just me, I can literally record at any time and get news out like at any time and add it to the podcast episode later. And then, the people that want to consume the full episodes with all the news, it makes more sense for them to do it that way. But for the people that just like the clips and me doing the immediate news automatically, a lot of people enjoy that and get a lot of views off that. I'm saying all this to say, if the 2 episode thing is kind of an outdated type of model for this specific podcast because I do the news very quickly now. I record usually on the day of or the day after instead of the podcast where if I wait to the episodes, sometimes I'm 2 or 3 days behind on the news. And in terms of social media, that's very bad. And I know some people don't care, but that's where the money comes in from the podcast is from the social media and the YouTube views. But the news has to be pretty fresh for the views to come in. If I'm covering something 2 to 3 days later, usually people have moved on and they don't really care, unless they just want to hear my opinion on it. Other than that, people just kind of move on. So with that being said, I was thinking, and if you haven't weighed in, please weigh in on this. I was thinking to just do 1 episode a week where throughout the week I compile all the news on that episode. And then the people that want to consume full episodes will get an hour and 30 minutes to maybe 2-hour episodes. Instead of like this episode might be 40 minutes to an hour or maybe just an hour long. Instead, you'll get 1 episode almost 2 hours long, to say the least. And it'll be for the people that just want to consume all the stuff at once because I know some people aren't on social media. I know some people, don't really watch clips. They like full format stuff. But the clips is what brings in a lot of the views. I've had clips that get 300, 400, 500,000 views. And the full episodes get maybe 5,000 to 10,000 in terms of Spotify and YouTube views and everything else compiled together. The views are way lower on the full episodes because just long format, people don't really consume long format that much. And plus, the news starts to get old in the long format and all this, there's a lot of factors. But I'm saying this to say is I am probably going to lean towards the 1 episode a week. I just got to figure out what day I want to release that episode. I'm thinking a Monday or like a Wednesday or Thursday, somewhere in between the week, and just pile that up into one for people that want to consume those. Because the clips is just, it's way easier to just, I can turn the camera on, record the news immediately as it happens, put the clip out, and it does great views. I just did that with the 50 Cent Jay-Z Epstein files and got on the main YouTube channel, collaborating with the podcast, 140,000 views. TikTok, we did like 300,000 views on a clip. We did another 70,000. Like Snapchat, we did another 200,000. Like the clips just get a lot more views. So I'm just throwing that question out again. Do you guys prefer the 1 episode or 2? If I do switch to the 1 episode a week, it's not going to be right now. It'll probably be like the beginning of April, like the first week of April. I'm just looking at some things a little bit more, trying to gather some more information and kind of just ask you guys and get more responses from people because there's, people are, for the most part, being cool about it. They're saying, hey, Quake, do your thing. I'll still listen regardless, which I really, really appreciate you guys. Some people are saying, I like the 2 episodes, much easier. Some people are saying, hey, it doesn't matter, 1 episode, 2 episodes, I'll still watch regardless. So, yeah, just wanted to throw that again out there. Let me know what you guys think. Let's get into the news. And on this episode, I'm going to be honest with you guys, man. A lot of it's surrounding 50 Cent. He's just in the news. Tony Yayo with the Ja Rule incident, T.I. versus Tony Yayo talking about 50 has a better career than Jay-Z. A lot of it's just surrounding 50. I mean, it's going to be a mainly 50-esque episode because he's the one that's mainly trending. I do want to talk about briefly right now before I get into the news. Bad Bunny halftime Super Bowl show. I didn't watch it. I watched it on YouTube because I usually don't watch Super Bowl. I don't get the backlash of people being racist and just saying, hey, I don't understand the Spanish thing. What's the, I don't know why people get so butthurt about it. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a halftime show. Move on with it. It's not, if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. It's really that simple, man. I'll never understand people who take their time out and give energy to things that they hate. I don't understand it. There is some guy, and I actually tweeted this on Twitter or on X or whatever you want to call it. there's some guy who like I'll always see in the responses on like news relating to 50, Jay-Z, Drake. Like he'll always be in the responses like hating on these guys. Like I just don't get it. Like he will always be in the replies. And I legitimately responded. I was like, dude, like, do you like have a life? Do you like, do you have a life outside of just like hating and commenting and, but there are genuinely people out there that just like don't have a life and they legitimately just look at things that they hate and put their energy towards hating these things. I will never understand that. And if you are in that position in your life where you're doing that, it's not like, don't waste your energy on that. I get it. Sometimes you get caught up and you want to like something infuriates you. And I sometimes comment some stuff and it infuriates me, but it's like what's the point? You're just wasting your energy and time on something that's not that, like the halftime Super Bowl show, not that big of a deal. You don't like Bad Bunny performing there and all that. Okay, it's just one show. He's not going to come there next year. It's going to be somebody else. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But a lot of people kind of just like, I don't get it, man. It's not that big of a deal, man. There's bigger issues to worry about than a halftime show. But, some people are heavily invested in this stuff. Some people just like, and this applies to me too. Like, I've had people straight up tell me, you're a 50 Cent dick rider. And then if I go against 50 something, you're a 50 hater. Or they'll say, oh, you're like, I made, man, I forget what the fuck. It was a video I made, something relating to Drake or something like that, or I don't even know. And this guy's like, you hate Kendrick, you hate the culture. And I'm like, bro, I've bigged up Kendrick. Like, you'll just get like people that just throw things at you and you're this, you're that. And like, people put all this energy into like just an opinion or, it's not that big of a deal. And I don't invest my time into things I hate. Like, yeah, I'll post, 50's career is way better than Jay-Z's. Jay-Z's is this, just like shit like that here and there. But I'm not like that heavily invested to the point where it completely like consumes my life. Because some people just like, they're so like focused on some things. And that's where the stand term comes from. Like, I'm a fan of these guys, but I legitimately, right now, 50 was like, hey, come work for me at Unit Films and Studios, quit Diverse Mentality, this, and that. I would say no. I would not quit Diverse Mentality to work for 50. Listen, 50 is my favorite. I respect the hell out of him. There's some things he does that is corny that I disagree with, but that's everybody. There's nobody you should be agreeing 100% with ever in your life. With that being said, I'm not like all in on 50. Like if there's people that said, hey, 50 sucks. He's only got one good album. That's it. And I'll be like, okay, cool. That's your opinion. Like I'm not sitting here and like, I'm trying to convince you that 50 is this amazing, artist that's done these amazing, like, bro, if you think, hey, he's a one-hit wonder with one album and that's it, and that's the only album he has that's good, that's on you, bro. That's your opinion. That's the way you're consuming his music. I got nothing else to say. There's stuff I say about artists that I don't rock with, and just is what it is, man. I'll say Big Sean, I don't like his voice. I don't like his music. I'm not a fan of him at all. It's not like I hate Jay-Z's the same. I'm not like a big Jay-Z fan. I could really care less about his music. And there's people that say, oh, you're stupid, you're this, you're that. It's like, bro, it's just an opinion. It's not that big of a deal. But, yeah, I say all that to say, I don't know how the fuck why I got into this, but yeah, just stop being so heavily invested into like Grammys, Super Bowl shows, like what celebrities think. Like, it's not that big of a deal, man. These guys are regular humans. They're doing a job, but they get distracted with this stuff. I don't know if they just don't like their life, so they just want to project hate on random things. It's probably that, I'm going to be honest with you. If there's a way to study a hater, it's probably that. Somebody that just hates their own life, so they're just going to project it onto other things. But, hey, man, it's for engagement, I guess. To me, it doesn't really bother me. I'll get comments, all kinds of comments. Sometimes I'll entertain it if I'm, like, scrolling and I'm not doing anything at that moment. Like, sometimes I'll be having to oil change my car or, something where I'm just, like, having to kill some time for something. And I'll scroll through comments and maybe I'll respond to some of the hate. Sometimes I do, and I catch myself. I'm like, why am I responding to this? I'll click on the person's profile, and it's some guy that, like, this is what happened to me. There was a guy that was commenting something about me. He was like, man, you don't know shit about hip-hop, this and that. Like, just crazy wild shit. Like, just the most disrespectful shit. And I clicked on his profile. I was like, let me just see who this person is, because this guy has a lot of things to say about me, So I clicked on his profile. And this guy, and in the tag, he had his business. It was like a food catering business. and he started it. He started a page for it. I click on it. The last post is like 2023. And yeah, he just gave up the food catering business. Like there was nothing, on his page about it. There's nothing that, he was promoting anymore. There was nothing that was being said. And I legit DM'd him and I was like, dude, actually, I didn't DM him. I responded to a comment. I was like, bro, like focus on your own business, your food catering. You just let that die out. Instead, you're focusing on hating on me. Like use your energy to benefit yourself. Why are you using energy to hate? That's so counterproductive. Like you're making your life worse because you don't like someone else's opinion. Like I would never derail what I got going on in my life because of somebody's opinion. That just doesn't make any sense. With that being said, though, as well, the Tony Yayo and Ja Rule incident at the airport or at the airplane. Why would? Because I didn't really mention this on the clip that I have, so I'm going to add on to it right now. Why would Ja Rule or Yayo or Murda put hands on each other and derail themselves from making hundreds of thousands to potentially millions of dollars? And actually, I had argued with somebody about like Tony Yayo making millions. And yes, Yayo made millions. And here's how I can break it down. It's very simple. Let's just say Yayo got 10,000, because that's what Yayo usually gets, about 10,000 a show. If he goes somewhere and performs overseas, he gets about 10 grand a show, which is great money. He does 20 shows, 10 grand. I don't know how much, $200,000 for Yayo in his pocket. That's fucking amazing for an artist that only had one studio album in 2005 and has been riding the G-Unit wave, basically. So I had an argument with somebody because he was like, nah, there's no way Yayo is a millionaire. There's no way there's no way he made even $1 million since 2020. I'm willing to bet. And I was like, bro, he was a hype man on 50 Cent's Final Lap tour. They did 103 dates. If he's getting just $10,000 a show for those dates, you do the math. That's over $1 million, $1,030,000, just on that. Not to mention the Green Light Gang tour and these other tours. So I was like, why would Yayo throw away making 100,000, 200,000? I'm talking about like not per show. I'm just talking about over the course of the year or the 2 years or 3 years. Like, why would he punch Ja Rule, get into a fight with Ja Rule, and throw all that away just because they're in front of each other and they hate each other? Like, Ja Rule wouldn't even do that. Why would Ja Rule throw away whatever money he's making? Because they got to travel. They got to do things. I'm not saying Ja Rule is making hundreds of millions of dollars here, but he's at least making six figures a year. To say that Ja Rule ain't making six figures a year is like wild, because he's done, he's not doing a full tour, but he's done shows here and there, and he has to travel to do that. He has to take flights. So why would, Uncle Murda, Yayo, or Ja Rule fight each other? Like, that's the perfect environment to run into your ops, because the second anybody puts a hand on anybody, they're forever gone from flying. You can't fly anymore. You're finished, done. And you just threw away whatever money that you were making. You threw away a lot of money, because that tour bus, you're going to have to be going with the tour bus. And you're not going to be able to travel overseas anymore. You're going to be only in America. So with that being said, that was the perfect environment for them to run into each other and bark, and none of them bite. Because both of them barked, but none of them bite. Basically, Yayo said it was Uncle Murda that started this shit. So all of them barked, none of them bit. Because it's the perfect environment to do that. Like, that's the perfect environment. Because they both know if they put hands on each other, they're both going to lose a lot of money, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. I would never put myself in a position to lose all that money because I dislike somebody. I don't care what the beef was. I legitimately don't care. Unless the guy like killed my mom, then I don't give a fuck about airplane. I'll fucking murder him right there if I see him. But that's that's like extreme. But I mean, even though 50's and Ja Rule's beef is extreme, but they ran into each other at the airplane, and they didn't do anything. They just said, what's up? That's it. Kept it moving. So it's like, you'd be dumb to throw yourself in a position like that and lose out on that kind of money. So let's finally get into news after that long intro. Let's get into the news, and it's going to start out with Takeoff's murder suspect finally getting a trial date. Yes, this is how long it's been taking. Takeoff was shot and killed as an innocent bystander after a game of dice turned violent in Houston in 2022. Patrick Clark, the man police have accused of allegedly murdering Takeoff back in 2022, is finally headed to trial. According to court records viewed by XXL, Clark attended a pretrial hearing in Harris County Court on Tuesday, at which time his trial date was set for November 5th. The Migos rapper was shot and killed during an argument over a game of dice at 810 Billiards and Bowling bowling in Houston, November 1st, 2022. Takeoff was merely an innocent bystander at the time. Another woman was also shot during the incident, but survived. Police arrested Clark a month after the death of Takeoff. They claimed to have used surveillance video to identify him as the shooter. He pleaded not guilty and has been out on a $1 million bail in the years since. Damn, so he had $100,000 to bail because you need 10% of that million usually. You got some bread. Damn, this DJ was getting money. Last August, Offset released his newest solo album, Kiari, which features a tribute for Takeoff titled Never Let Go. Yeah, man, I can't even talk. The judicial system is broken, man. To take this long to set a trial is utterly ridiculous, man. We're talking November 2022, so 23, November 23, 24, 25, 26. 4 years since he died. We're finally getting a trial 4 years later. You know, I can understand if it was a complicated case, lots of evidence that needed, lots of this and that. But 4 years after, insane, utterly insane. But that's the update on it. I guess we'll see in November. There's going to be a lot of important trials actually this year if they actually go according to plan. Lil Durk, YNW Melly, Takeoff, Keefe D. I believe Diddy's going to try to fight back on the sentencing. So there's quite a few, men, this year. That's going to be very interesting. I don't know if they're all going to, all of them are going to be actually done this year, but we'll see. Yeah, that's the update on that. Speaking of lawsuits and potential trials down the line, J. Cole and his legal team have officially responded to Cam'ron's $500,000 lawsuit. Let's go over the article. It's been a busy few weeks for J. Cole. Late last month, he dropped the Birthday Blizzard 26, a collection of 4 new freestyles. A few days after that, he finally unleashed his 7th and presumably final album, The Fall Off. He went on to announce his Trunk Stop tour, during which he will drive around the United States in his old Honda Civic and sell CDs out of it. On top of all that, he's also currently wrapped up in a legal battle with Cam'ron. Cam'ron sued Cole and Universal Music Group in October of 2025. He alleges that he's owed approximately $500,000 in royalties from their Might Delete Later collab, Ready 24. Allegedly, he was asked to collaborate with the Dreamville rapper in December of 2021. He allegedly agreed under the conditions that he receive both credit and control over the final cut. Cam also allegedly wanted Cole to appear on a single of his or on an episode of It Is What It Is podcast. 2 years later, with Cole having refused to honor his agreement to collaborate with Cam'ron on either single or the podcast, defendants nevertheless released Ready 24 on the album Might Delete Later, the lawsuit alleges. Now, Cole's legal team has finally responded to the lawsuit, and they're calling cap. This is what they got to say. Plaintiff encouraged and blessed defendant's use of his performance as it was to his career benefit. Basically, they're saying Cam'ron blessed it, and said, let's drop it because it's going to benefit my career. That's what they're alleging. His attorney, Christine Leopora, alleges in a new filing per Billboard. It was only after the release of Ready 24 that he began to demand unreasonable conditions never agreed to by Cole or an excessive fee inconsistent with industry standards for a featured performance, followed by the filing of his lawsuit without notice to publicly disparage Cole as leverage. So they're basically saying, hey, after the song came out, Cam'ron had these crazy demands of $500,000 and these, oh, you got to do a song for me, you got to do, appear on the podcast for me. It was only after the song came out he had these crazy demands. Before that, he had none of these demands. And they're saying he basically did this lawsuit to make J. Cole look bad and pressure him into agreeing to those demands. This is, pretty good defense. But if Cam'ron has like proof with text messages or paperwork, this defense doesn't hold up at the end of the day. That's really all it's going to boil down to. If Cam'ron has the proper paperwork or at least text messages with J. Cole saying, yeah, man, I'll do it, just give me a little bit of time. If he has that proof, which it sounds like, because I played the video for you guys in the last podcast episode, I believe, of Cam'ron, addressing why he sued J. Cole on his show, Talk with Flea. And he basically said, listen, I hit up this guy for the past 2 to 3 years, and he never, followed up on my requests. So if he has those like contacts, those 2 to 3 years where he tried contacting Cole, then he's got, I think, good evidence. I think they do use text messages as evidence in a lot of these trials. I don't know. I could be wrong. But, hey, man, the music industry is the music industry. Every industry is every industry. Do things by paperwork. It's really just that simple. It can't be like, I fuck with you, homie, so I ain't going to, do it by the paperwork. You have to do it by the paperwork. It's just that simple. I'm not saying that Cole's wrong or that he's done something wrong. I don't know. We don't know until this goes to trial, or maybe there's a settlement that happens because Cole probably knows he's in the wrong. I have no idea. We'll find out as this goes to trial, but do things by paperwork, man. Look at French Montana and Fat Joe. What did Fat Joe say, or French Montana say? Hey, I appeared on the All the Way Up record. That was a huge record for Fat Joe, and you didn't fucking give me my royalties or my credit or my payment. I just assumed you're my brother. You're going to give me it. Until he finally pressed him after he saw him at an award show or something like that. And Fat Joe was like, yeah, let me call my lawyer and give you a percentage. And then even Fat Joe was like, nah, I gave you 10%. French Montana was like, nah, you give me 5%. So that's that. Doesn't matter how cool you are with a person, unless you're like brothers with the fucking guy and you were literally raised with him, like 50 and Tony Yayo and, people that are that like blood brothers where they're just like, they've been in the slums together. And, then you can be like, hey, it's not that big of a deal. We'll figure this out later. But even that will turn on you. But I'm just saying, in general, just get your paperwork right, man. It's the music industry. People are going to lie. You know how many times I've been through this millions of times with artists, bro. They'll say, let's do something and this and that. And it's like, it never fucking happens. And, so I don't put any word on what artists say. They just don't live up to, and I talked about this millions of times. They don't live up to their word. And I'm not saying J. Cole didn't live up to his word. I'm just saying in general, it's not good practice to not do paperwork. Do the paperwork. It's just a lot less headaches. So let's get into this discussion of who had the better career, 50 Cent or Jay-Z. Whose career would you choose? Tony Yayo appeared, and Uncle Murda later on appeared on, I believe what the podcast name is. It's with Andrew Schultz. Let me see. Flagrant podcast with Andrew Schultz. And basically he was, I don't know I forget how the conversation got to this, but he was like, hey, Tony Yayo was like, I would choose 50 Cent's career over Jay-Z. And of course, Tony Yayo was going to say that. 50's his guy. He's part of G-Unit. Makes sense. But the reasoning for why is, one, Yayo was like 50 was Tupac's reincarnation. Andrew Schultz actually did a good job. He said basically 50's crossed over to different boundaries, and he actually said this, but it kind of got like overswept because of all the conversations on the podcast. Sometimes people talk over each other, and these points get like quickly washed because of all the conversation. But
easy, and you just a 50. You might just be a 50 hater. And it's,
No. Because
you just said
we all love 50.
Now look. So look, he said he'd rather have Jay's career over 50, right?
Yeah, me personally, no, but yeah.
Listen, Jay's presentation is good. I think 50 always has the best presentation in hip hop. And what I'm saying is Jay will do a deal, and we can look it up. Remember when he had the album with Samsung, and they bought 1 million copies before he even dropped?
That's a fire.
He always found a way to
Jay's
win.
Brilliant.
Yeah. He always found a way to win. When he had his percentage in the Barclays, he used that. He had a good presentation. But when 50 Cent dropped, it felt like Tupac came back from the dead.
Yes, but no
disrespect.
No disrespect.
No. And look, because let's keep it real.
Bring the hammer down.
Jay is smart enough. You gotta let me finish.
All right.
Jay is smart enough to stand next to the fire.
Yes.
That's what
Kanye album,
Yeah.
R. Kelly album, R. Kelly album.
Let me talk.
R. Kelly
Who
album.
was on Jay-Z? Look, when did 50 tour with Jay-Z? Look it up. I was in jail. Because he was standing next to the fire.
That's smart.
Jay admitted it.
That's smart.
50 had the most hate. Niggas didn't need to stand next to the fire to heat up. That's all niggas do. And it's 20 years later, and we're still doing 103 shows.
Yes, but when I say
103 shows, still got 40 films coming out.
Jay never had the
and I'm not glazing. I'm just telling you. Because
another point that Schultz made that was really, really good is that Jay never had a stranglehold on the music, meaning he wasn't that like, there wasn't a moment in Jay-Z's career, and this has been discussed millions of times, where Jay-Z was that guy. Like nobody was competing with Jay. Jay was the top guy. The only year you could argue that is 2009. And that is legitimately 13 years after, he made his first debut album, Reasonable Doubt, in 1996. It took him 13 years to have like that moment. And that was in 2009. I will potentially give him 2009. Eminem's Return was in 2009. He had a great year that year. Won a Grammy for Crack a Bottle, won a Grammy for Relapse, so on and so forth. Jay-Z had that good stranglehold because of the Empire State of Mind record with Alicia Keys. But other than that, never dominated. 50 Cent dominated. I'm talking dominated by a long shot. We're not even it's nowhere near. It's like 50 was here and everybody else was down here. Even Eminem wasn't doing that time. When 50 was running things, Eminem wasn't really, there with it, which is not a big deal because that's 50's guy, whatever. But 50 ran 2003 to 2006. 2007 is where, he had the battle with Kanye and didn't dominate. Kanye dominated that year. But from 2003 to 2006, those 3 years, 50 had the chokehold. Like, there was nobody doing the numbers that 50 was doing. Everybody on G-Unit was doing numbers like it was nothing. Everything G-Unit related, 50 Cent related, was flying off the shelves. His video game, 5 million copies off of a fucking video game, matching Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, matching these huge big budget games. Just on that, music, he was the fastest selling black artist in the history of music. He still is, which is crazy that he holds that title. The Massacre did 1,140,000 copies in 4 days. Nobody's ever matched that. If he had that full week, he probably would have done like 1.6, 1.7 million. I say all that to say 50's dominance, Jay-Z could never even touch. And like Yayo said in the clip, Jay-Z was standing next to the fire. And if you look right now, if you look at Jay-Z's streams, look at his songs, right? His top 5 songs, 4 of them, actually all 5 of them include somebody on the record, but 4 of them aren't even his records. They're somebody else's, which is insane. So people don't even think about that, mention that at all. So if you look at the top 5 Spotify stream records, the first one's Umbrella, Rihanna, standing next to the fire. Rihanna was getting hot at that moment. Did Jay-Z need to be on that record? No. Nobody gave a shit about Jay-Z's verse on that track. That would have been a hit with or without Jay-Z. Jay-Z was like, listen, I know this hit. I'm going to jump on that. I'm on Def Jam. I'm promoting Rihanna. Let me jump on this and stand next to the fire. Hopped on that Umbrella record. Didn't need him. Crazy in Love, Beyonce. Global superstar, bigger than Jay-Z. That's the second record that's on Jay-Z's top stream songs. The second track is Beyonce's. Then Hit Us in Paris. That is Kanye West. That's all Kanye. Kanye is a bigger star than Jay-Z overseas. People don't want to admit it. People just gloss over that. But Kanye is a bigger artist, bigger star than Jay-Z ever was. That's just the reality of it. Kanye's way bigger. Now looking back, it made sense that 50 was versing Kanye because Kanye is a way bigger artist. Kanye had bigger first week sales, bigger overall sales on albums versus Jay-Z. The competition wasn't 50 versus Jay-Z. It was always 50 versus Kanye because Jay-Z couldn't hold a candle in sales to 50 or Kanye. They were outdoing Jay-Z like it was nothing. But that's the third record. The fourth is Jay-Z's song, and it's Empire State of Mind. And that's the record that in New York, when they play that record, do they play Jay-Z's verses? No, they play that Alicia Keys Golden Hook, which anybody could have made a hit record that was from New York. Nas could have made that a hit record. 50 could have made that a hit record. Diddy could have made that a hit record. Fucking anybody. Mims at that time. No disrespect to Mims. Mims could have hopped on that and would have made a hit record. So that is like a crap. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I assume that Jay-Z didn't write that hook, that it was already crafted for him. I don't know about that. Maybe if Jay-Z wrote the hook, okay, then I give him props for that. But that was a record that Alicia Keys gave huge alley-oop to him. And it became this New York anthem. So that's the record. That's why I say in 2009 was probably the only year where you can give to Jay-Z where he was dominant. Like, he wasn't clear dominant, but he was dominant that year with that record. The album Blueprint 3 did well in sales. The only one that you could say is Eminem in 2009. You could say Drake with the buzz that he had in 2009. You could say Lil Wayne still. You could say a few artists that year that dropped albums, but you could maybe give it to Jay-Z. And then the fifth track is Numb Encore, which is Linkin Park. Like, that's where the crossover, he's trying to cross over. Then you got Run This Town, Drunk in Love, another Beyonce record, No Church in the Wild, another Kanye record, Monster, another Kanye record, Holy Grail, which is a Jay-Z record, but still another Kanye record with Click, Drake record with Pound Cake. So he's got a lot of records that other people, he's just featured on. So he's standing next to the fire like Yayo was talking about. But here's something that people don't mention and don't recognize because the years have gone on. But think about this. 50 had a late start in his career versus Jay-Z, versus Diddy, versus Nas, whoever. Jay-Z's career started in 96. 50 started in 2003. That's already a 7-year gap in career starting. I believe 7 years. With that being said, Jay-Z has a 7-year start. 50 starts in 2003. Drops his album Get Rich or Die Trying. Without even mentioning worldwide sales, just in America at the end of 2003, he did 6.5 million copies just in the United States of America. At that moment, just off that one album, he did all of Jay-Z's career in those 7 years. So he made up for all those 7 years that Jay-Z dropped, I believe, like, how many fucking albums did Jay-Z drop? Every year that guy was dropping. He dropped like 7 albums, and 50 did his whole career in one album in 2003. Then you do 2005. Then we're not even counting worldwide sales. So if we got into worldwide sales, the gap between 50 and Jay-Z at that time was ridiculous. Ridiculous. So you go to 2005, 50 does another 4.5 million by the end of 2005 with The Massacre. What's the numbers on that? That is 11 million total copies just in the United States of America. By 2005, Jay-Z had retired, had ducked the smoke, didn't want anything to do with the music industry. Black Album, I'm retired, I bow out. Because 50 is just that dominant during that time. So he did 11 million copies. By the time 2005 comes, he has basically doubled Jay-Z's career in sales in a span of 2 years. 2 years it took that guy to double Jay-Z's career in sales. You go to 2007, Curtis, by the end of 2007, I believe in the United States, did 1.8 million to 2 million. Jay-Z at the time had released Kingdom Come and American Gangsta, and Kingdom Come that was his best first week sales. I think he did like 680,000 first week or something, like 640, somewhere around the 600,000. The best first week sales he ever did in his career. So that album probably went platinum that year because it was released towards the end of 2006. So maybe platinum around there, whatever. Let's just say it went platinum by 2007. Then he did American Gangster, which did all right as well. He added on probably another 1.5 million. So he probably matched Curtis in sales, but it took 50 one album to match. And that's 50's, a lot of eyes, 50's worst album. So 50 does basically let's just say 1.5 million. I'm not going to give him 2 million. I'll give him 1.5 million. It took Jay-Z to do 2 albums to do 1.5 million. So 50, the gap with 50 versus Jay-Z having, by the way, like I said, Jay-Z had a 7-year head start. Like, why are people just ignoring that? A 7-year head start. 50 at that time, even financially, the gap was ridiculous. 50 had cracked the first hip-hop artist to do over $100 million in 1 year. He did $150 million, which was the numbers that was reported. But based on the percentages he owned of Vitamin Water, he did $400 million with that. But what was reported was he made $100 million plus the $50 million that year that he made. $150 million, the gap was insane financially. Then what happens in 2009, around that time, 50 has issues with his label, essentially goes through another blackballed type of thing. Because he had to deal with Yayo mentioned he had to deal with getting blackballed in 2002. He had to create his own buzz to the point where Eminem, jumped in and, said, hey, sign with me, let's get this ball rolling. I say all that to say, right, now as the years have gone on, Jay-Z has released a lot more albums, has done a lot more features, has stand next to the fire a lot more. A lot of his tours are with Beyonce, the numbers. If you look at the tours, they're with Beyonce. On the Run tour, On the Run 2 tour with Beyonce. A lot of his tours and stuff are connected to people. Jay-Z hasn't done anything solo-wise that has done insane numbers in a long, long time. 50 has proved it. He did the Final Lap tour, $105 million, 103 dates, basically $1 million a show, essentially, he was doing. So he did great numbers on that tour, and that's solely off of his music. He hadn't released anything new since 2014 as far as studio albums, so well over 11 years, and he's still doing numbers without having to stand next to a fire of somebody. This is solely off of 50's energy of what he's putting out there and what he's doing. Jay-Z has had to stand next to the fire, had to rub his hands and get warm through Kanye, through Rihanna, through R. Kelly at a certain point, through Linkin Park, through Beyonce. It took him to try to stand by himself. It was the 2009, but even Alicia Keys gave him that alley-oop. If you look at 50's top records, let's go to 50's top records. In the Club, his own record. Candy Shop, his own record. Hate It or Love It is up there. That's Game Records, but who gave that record? Who wrote that record? Who gave him that song? 50, so it's basically 50's record. PIMP, his record. 21 Questions, his record. That's the top 5. All of his songs. Besides the Game one, they both collaborated on, but We know that's 50's record. He had it, muted his vocals, gave it to Game, said, fuck. This is how hot 50 was. Just giving out hits like it was nothing. He was giving it to his artist. He didn't have to do that. But G-Unit was way bigger than Rockefeller ever could be. That's another thing, too. So as the years have gone on, I say all this to say 50 dominated. And he hasn't been musically. He just said, hey, I'm done with music. And we'll talk about that later. But he said, I'm done with music. He just bowed out. He doesn't care. Had he kept releasing albums, doing a new deal with Def Jam, which he was going to sign at the time, he would still be doing numbers. You guys don't think 50, look at that. He dropped the Kanan tape. And here's my proof, because people are going to say, oh, 50 can't do numbers, blah, blah, blah. He fell off, this and that. The Kanan tape, free fucking mixtape, produces a hit record that went double platinum. It was a free song. He just threw it out there. If you look at the YouTube views, that song has outperformed a lot of Jay-Z records that came out. So if you go from 2015, let's just say all the Jay-Z records that came out from 444, from all this, let's actually do it. Let's actually look at it. I'm curious. In streams, let's go to I'm the Man. Let's see where the streams on I'm the Man is. I'm genuinely curious. I'm the Man on Spotify has 286 million streams. That is a song that came out in 2015. So let's see where 286 million for Jay-Z is on streams. So Jay-Z's Hard Knock Life. Let's see a record that he dropped after 2015 or from 2015 and forward. Let's see if there's a record on here that he dropped that has more than 286 million streams that came out in 2015 or after. Let's just see. I see nothing right now. I'm going to be honest. So we got Otis, which is at 315 million. We got Suit and Tie, Justin Timberlake's record, 290 million. Hard Knock Life, 282 million. Gotta Have It, 278 million. 99 Problems. So let's just go to 444, his album that he dropped. So the 444 title track is at 211 million. So he's behind by roughly 70 million streams. His biggest record is behind 50's free mixtape record that wasn't on a major studio album, that didn't get any major studio album push, just a free record. G-Unit Records, independent. There's no label attached to the song. There's nothing. It's just straight 50 just dropping it to 286 million in streams. Jay-Z dropped it on a major album, label behind it, major whatever, 13th, whatever fucking studio album that he has, and did 211 million. That just tells you the gap. If 50 actually gave a fuck about music, which I wish he did, if he actually put in the effort, he would easily have way more numbers, way more streams. If you look in the total streams, 50 actually has more streams as a solo artist, not as a feature, though. Jay-Z has a lot more as a feature because he was a lot more, on people's records and still is. So as a solo artist, 50 has 7.8 billion streams on Spotify as a solo, not as a feature. Jay-Z has 2.6 billion. That is 50 has nearly 3 times more features as a solo lead artist on a record. Actually, no, just as a solo. Sorry. For the lead thing, they're tied. So as a lead artist on the record, they're basically tied. Jay-Z's at 12.4 billion. 50's at 12.9 billion. So 50's beaten by 500 million streams. But total overall, with the features, with all this stuff, 50's at 18.9 billion. Jay-Z's at 23 billion. So Jay-Z beats him by like 4 billion. But as you can see, Rihanna's on there. These are pop stars that he's like fucking getting help from. So, of course, he's going to do more numbers. 50 didn't rely on pop stars to help him on records. But that's my point in all this is, when Yayo talks about this stuff, he could add in this stuff, but he made some good points of they had a head start. 50 caught up to that head start with one album. If we're talking worldwide sales, 50 washes Jay-Z. There's not even a competition. Worldwide, globally, 50's known more. 50's respected more. 50 proves it with the tours. 50 proves it with the numbers. Like, there is no debate on the worldwide. Yes, can Jay-Z go to the UK? Cool. The UK is basically a second America, like in terms of like hip hop. It's a second like extension. A lot of artists can go to the UK. You're not proving much if you go to the UK. If you can go to other countries, third world countries, countries that barely even tap into hip hop like that, and you can do shows, and you can do a lot of money and do a lot of tours, you're good to go. But that's the debate with it. I would take 50's career. 50's had a huge dominance, remained relevant with that dominance. Hasn't had to rely on really anything. Yes, did Eminem and Dre sign him and give him that push? Of course. But let's be honest here. It's 50's writing that got him those hit records. When the In the Club beat was there were artists that got sent that beat from Dr. Dre. They didn't know what the fuck to do with that beat. They had no idea. By the way, speaking of in the club, 50 has a record that's forever going to stand the test of time within the club. Go shawty, it's her birthday. Everybody plays that during their birthday. That's forever going to stand the test of time. Jay-Z doesn't have his own record that's forever going to stand the test of time. The only record is the Empire State of Mind, and that's mainly for New Yorkers and for people that like maybe travelers that come to New York, they probably play that record. It's one of those records like for America, it's going to stand the test of time. But for the world, most people don't give a shit. And I've traveled. You know, I'm not the most traveled person ever, but I've been to Germany. I've been in my country. I've been to Mexico. I'm going to be traveling more. I don't really hear Jay-Z. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't. I'm not saying that as disrespectful or anything. I just don't hear Jay-Z like that. Do I hear certain records, maybe Big Pimpin'? I've heard certain records I do hear. But I just, let's see where Big Pimpin' is at. Let's just see. Big Pimpin'. This is such that big of a record that everybody's, oh my God, bro, this is such a huge impact. This song has 230 million streams, bro. Where is 50 Cent's 230 million streams? Let's see what record is 230, or at least close to it. You don't, actually, wait, Never Enough, which is literally an Eminem record. That's off his Encore album. But Out of Control remix at 192 million. Or you can do Patiently Waiting, which is 286 million. These records that have like 230 or 200, they're like Eminem records and Ed Sheeran. So my point in all this is that 50 washes this guy in numbers by a long shot. But it's just 50's career, like longevity-wise, Jay-Z's been more like, if you like somebody who has like more of a consistent flow but doesn't dominate, you go with Jay-Z. If you want that type of career where you're like steady, consistent. But 50's had this crazy jump in his career musically, but he's also sustained his career outside of music as well. So to say that 50 fell off, yeah, musically he hasn't been, but he's still done numbers without even trying. He still does numbers. Without even trying, his music still does numbers. So I don't know if you quote that as falling off. Maybe recently hasn't done anything that's him, but neither has Jay-Z. Last Jay-Z album was 2017 as a solo. And then he did that Beyonce, whatever, collab album in 2018. That's it. He hasn't done shit else recently that's been relevant. 50's music has been more relevant recently than Jay-Z's. That's just the reality. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because if I ever talk to Tony Yayo, I definitely want to bring this up and kind of give him some extra ammunition when he talks about this stuff because he misses some points on it. But yeah, that's my take on the situation. This age-old beef between 50 Cent and Ja Rule will never end. And today we got some news that Tony Yayo and Uncle Murda ran into Ja Rule at the airport. Uncle Murda first revealed that they ran into Ja Rule on his Instagram stories, in which he removed later, but this is what he had to say. Me and Tony Yayo ran into Ja Rule on the plane today. Tell y'all all about it on the Real Report show. I got some footage. Also, LOL. Bunch of laughing emojis. And then me personally, I know people that work at these airports, quite a few of people. We heard that Ja Rule ran into Tony Yayo and that they got into a scuffle, not like a fight or anything, but just an argument back and forth. And that what I'm getting reports is that Ja Rule threw a pillow at Yayo or Murda, and then apparently one of the flight attendants saw that and got Ja Rule kicked off the flight. The funny thing is 50 Cent decided to put out the footage himself of Tony Yayo and Uncle Murda running into Ja Rule. They actually recorded it. 50 wasn't there. It was just Yayo and Murda and a couple of other people that are around them, and they were sitting behind Ja Rule. Ja Rule was sitting in the front. 50 posted 2 videos, and in the caption he said he was by himself, so he had to make a scene so they could remove his scary ass off the plane. LOL, Yayo said, suck my you-know-what, and the gay stewardess said it's going down. LOL. So check out these video footages of what was happening.
Suck ass Ja Rule on the plane. Trying to punch suck ass up, you fucking sucker. Suck ass Ja Rule on the plane. Trying to punch suck ass up, you fucking sucker.
Federal regulations prohibit the use of cellular networks during flight, the use of Wi-Fi to make video or voice calls.
Niggas made Ja Rule.
Niggas made Ja Rule. Show your face, able to carry on items.
This is his
Sure, armrests are in the resting position.
Ja Rule went on X and responded to the videos that were released. He said, I popped off on these punks by myself on a plane, laughed my ass off. Guys, I threw a pillow at Yayo's head because you soft, knocked your hat all off your shit. It was hilarious. Then he quoted something from TMZ, or Jamie here from TMZ reaching out, comment regarding a Delta flight you were on Sunday morning Witness tells us from SFO to JFK where Ja Rule got into an argument with Tony Yayo on the flight. Ja was the aggressor and yelled profanities, saying he wanted to fight, then threw a pillow at Tony Yayo. Crew stepped in and pulled both guys off the plane for a bit. Yayo yelled back that planes are federal offenses territory and he did nothing wrong, and he put a laughing emoji. Then TMZ released additional footage, and it shows Ja Rule basically being the aggressor and yelling at both Yayo and Murda.
Let's shake. Come on. Let's shake. Let's shake. Let's shake. Let's shake. Come on. Let's shake. Let's shake. Let's shake. Let's shake. Let's shake.
So what do you guys think of this? I think the situation is hilarious because, you know, Ja Rule has run into 50 Cent at the airport before and actually on a flight. This is years ago. This is like 2014. And 50 said he saw him like a little bit down the line and he went, you know, up and down the line of the airplane to basically scare Ja Rule or make him nervous. Ja Rule denied that he was scared or nervous during that altercation, but it's happened before. That's the funny part, is that these guys travel so much that they're bound to run into each other at one point. Now, I know Ja Rule is probably going to say something. By the time I actually make this video and post it, there probably will be a Ja Rule response, and we'll see what he has to say. And eventually, Tony Yayo and Uncle Murda will talk about it on their Real Report podcast, which actually just launched today. So check out the first episode on their channel. But remember, if you get into any type of fight, it is a felony automatically, and you will be kicked out of the airport, I think forever. I could be wrong, but you'll be kicked out basically for years or forever if you get into a fight, because they 100% prohibit that. They don't allow that. So I'm glad nobody really put hands on each other. That's like probably the best place where you can expect people to not actually fight, at least people with common sense. I know it happens regardless whenever people get into their emotions or they get drunk. You know, I've seen a bunch of police, you know, video footage of them, you know, dragging people out of airplanes because they've done some crazy stuff. But nonetheless, this beef between 50 Cent and Ja Rule is never going to end. And obviously, Tony Yayo is going to ride with 50 and as well as Uncle Murda, because 50's putting money in their pocket. So they're going to, you know, go at Ja Rule regardless. And there was reports, obviously, I think a couple months ago, where apparently 50's crew saw Ja Rule at that Brandy and Monica show and, you know, put hands on him there. Ja Rule denied it, that nothing really happened, but there was some brief video footage. I know Max B got dragged into it, but he was never involved. It was mainly 50's crew. So it looks like it's all hands, you know, on site when they see each other. The beef is forever going to be going. I mean, this was some deeply rooted stuff, so I don't think they're ever going to end this. But nonetheless, let me know what you guys think. Was this a smart tactic? Was this great promo for the podcast? Obviously, I think it is. But yeah, that's it. So I wanted to talk about this. 50 Cent did a Rolling Stone interview right before the Super Bowl. It was done. And the interviewer, whose name, let me actually shout him out because he did a great job. And the reason why he did a great job is because he actually asked questions about the music. I'm tired of a lot of these interviews happening and just people not asking questions about the music. So shout out to Parisi the Kid. He did this Rolling Stone interview, and he was basically pressing 50 about music. It was beautiful because I had never seen anybody actually ask about the music, care about the music, press 50 about it, not let him just do a generic answer, which he still did in this interview. He still kind of like bobbed and weaved of why he's not dropping music. He kind of answered it, kind of didn't. But this guy at least like put pressure on 50 to be like, hey, drop some fucking music, because it's like, what the fuck are we doing here, right? So let's go over this. I actually want to talk a little bit about this because it kind of pissed me off a little bit, and you'll know why. So the interviewer says, Power has been a major success for you. Power Book Force just went off, and you've got Raising Kanan coming. A decade ago, you had the mixtape, The Kanan Tape, and it was inspired by the series. So can we ever expect you to jump back in with another tape? Which is fire question, because he like talked about the TV shows, which, you know, now that's all 50's about, is TV shows and all this stuff. But then he like twisted it and was like, yo, we need some music. Like, what's up with the music? 50 said this: I almost put out a whole tape because of the rap podcast thing. Jim Jones criticized 50's involvement for the Combs documentary on Let's Rap About It podcast. I never said anything about anyone if they didn't do something or we didn't have an actual issue. They responded to something that I said about them not paying their bills, which was true. They responded to that by rapping, and I'm like, okay, just because they're rappers. So he's basically saying they're rappers, so of course they're going to respond by rapping. So here's the thing, though. He said, I almost put out a whole tape because of the rap podcast thing. So basically, during that winter break, the Christmas break that people had, majority of people had, you know, that's when the freestyle came out of Fabulous. Basically, it was Fabulous going in, and everybody else kind of, Dave East didn't really diss 50. Mano did a little bit. Jim Jones did a little bit, but Fabulous went all the way in. So Fab is usually the one that's mentioned through this whole freestyle, whatever. 50 just said, like, I almost put a tape out, a whole tape out. Like, why even mention that? Like, why not prove it? You know, why not release the music? Like, what's the fear there? Is it the streams? Is it the reception? Are people going to clown you? Like, he's always said this, hip hop is a competitive sport. So why not release it if you did get in the studio to record it? That's like the corniest thing to mention and not actually like do anything. Just don't even mention it. Just say, hey, you know, I didn't want to entertain rappers because I'm not really a rapper like that anymore. I jump in here and there. I do some features. I do some theme songs, and that's it. I would respect it. I'd much rather him say that than pump fake something and be like, I almost put a whole tape out. Like, what that makes me think is that 150 was worried about the reception. If he put the tape out, would he get clowned? Because bar for bar, he can't go up against Fabulous. Like, that's just the reality. Mano, Jim Jones, and Davies 50's got that ability to go against them. I don't really look at them as that lyrical rappers, but Fabulous lyrically would have cooked him, which is what it is, you know. But 50 would have had more of an impact if he would have like had more jokey stuff, because usually 50 does well on that side of things. But yeah, why pump fake that? So then he continues, says New York is turning into a podcast. The whole fucking New York hip hop is turning into a podcast. So there ain't going to be nobody for them to interview because they're all podcasters. They've got to go to everyone else's podcast to interview each other because that much of it is turning into that now. So now, do I respect them as journalists or do I respect them as artists? When they're speaking, they're offering an opinion that you wouldn't hear. I may look at it and feel some kind of way, but I don't say anything about it because it's an artist and I'm an artist. I don't feel like I would have to speak on that. How many times did I see that when I'm watching things in culture? So he's basically saying, why would I put out the tape if I look at them as journalists now? They're more looked at as people that are speaking on the culture and not as rappers, but then they pick and choose when they want to become rappers. Basically saying you can't play both fields, which you can. But that's what I get out of this. And then he says, so when those signals are crossed, basically saying when they're mixed and matched, it always creates a difficult energy. Even if I responded to those records, I think it would only be to their benefit because the artists, if you look at what they've done in their career, and if you look at 50 Cent's stats, there's no way we're supposed to be competing with each other for anything. If you're in the business of selling music because you call yourself being in the music business, then the idea is to create things that sell, make music that sells, right? If that's not the idea, I don't know. You can be better than me at every other idea because that was my only interest, making the right music and having it embraced and sold. So he's basically saying, why would I release this tape if it doesn't sell? If it doesn't, basically sales is what 50's, and we always know 50's connected to sales. He always mentions sales. But at the end of the day, he's basically just coming up with ways, and that's the way 50 approaches music, is he's always cared about if the records sell versus like a Banks. Lloyd Banks never really cared. He just drops music because he has a passion for it, and if people embrace it, they embrace it. If they don't, they don't. He doesn't like reach out to do records that sell. He's never really been that type of artist. You know, 50's kind of forced him to do that with Karma and with, what was on the second album, the Help record with Carrie Hilson, with Any Girl with Lloyd. Like, these are records that are like female-driven records to try to sell. Banks has never done that as his own releases. He just never does. Look at the Cody tapes. He doesn't have records that are, you know, female-driven. You know, he may have a little here and there, but majority of the time it's not that. 50's always had that. 50's always been the business. He's always talked about record sales and all that. So that's why to 50, I think it's not appealing to drop music anymore because there isn't much record sales. I mean, the best artist right now, J. Cole, is projected to do 280 to 300,000. That's looked at as very, very, very fucking good. So what would 50 do? He would do anywhere from 50 to 100,000, maybe 150,000 if it crosses over and people are just fucking with the music, which would be a huge success in today's climate. But that would be looked at as a failure when it comes to all of his previous sales. You get what I'm coming at? So that's kind of the issue with it on 50's eyes, I think. I think that's where he's coming at. But he says, I have music that I didn't release, pieces that I put to the side because I didn't think it was the right thing for that period, but something I created. You know what I'm saying? There's always stuff that you can look at and then go, yo. When I play it for the people in the house, like personally around in the studio, they'll go, yo, why didn't you put that out? I was like, no, for that time period, it didn't work. Like the tempo, I almost didn't put Many Men on Give It Try Trying because it was so slow production-wise. We were in the boom bap at that point, so everything was faster and up-tempo and had harder hitting drums. Tony Yayo is why that record made it. He's like, nah, which is something he's always mentioned. But the interviewer says, what will it take you to put that music out or to get back in the booth? A lot of people do want to hear you. So see, this is the interview that's like pressing, like pressing for the music, not just moving on to the next subject and saying, okay, that's what I agree with, whatever. So he says, he says that and then says, look, I'm going to make music. I'm excited that this is the feeling. The general consensus is they want to hear something new from me, right? You can have the best verse, but I don't think you can have the best verse at 50 years old. I think hip hop is connected to youth culture, and I think simplicity is the part of why it's the best music. Yo, I cannot fuck with these dogs, hoes. That's the bitch that come with her buddy for Moneybag Yo. That was my line. It got me like, okay, I'm fucking with him right now. I'm glad I stopped because you can't bang your head against the wall until your brain falls out the other side. Because you can, sorry. And it's not that the music isn't right. It's that they're choosing something else at the moment. It's like Drake. I don't remember whack records from him. I don't hear any whack records. I just heard records that were broader, that were written for a top 40 or crossover radio that wasn't written for the hood, but it wasn't whack. Again, deflecting, not really answering the question. He said, I'm going to make music, but it's not for people to hear. It's just for me. I don't think the hip-hop culture is going to embrace me like that, besides you saying you want to hear music from me. You can't be 50 years old and have the best record or the verse. Yes, you can. Jay-Z gets praised for it. Nas gets praised for it. A lot of artists gets praised for having great verses. Lil Wayne still does here and there. Eminem still does here and there. So, yes, you can. I would have said that in the interview. Like, whenever I sit down and 50 says this bullshit to me, I will say Jay-Z had some of the best verses. Nas, like, it's simple, but this is the part that pisses me off with 50. It's like he comes up with these weird narratives and just like, and then shout out to this interviewer again. He pushes back. He says, but the tides change. And that's true. And he says, when you say the tide changes, this is what I want to understand. There's a point where you deal with resistance. You come, you're new, it's organic, it grows in front of you, and it cannot have everything it needs to facilitate it going well in the beginning and still make it, because it's like they're finding you for the first time, the audience, right? Then there's a point where if you've established yourself and you've been consecutively a hit, radio accepts the record and puts it in rotation immediately as you come, because when they hear your voice, they hear a hit. So it goes right into full rotation. Then you look and you say the third part, what is the shit going on here? The third part is when they hear your voice, and regardless how good the song is, they're like, oh, it's cool, but it's not like the first one. This is why they always say in hip-hop, the artist's first album is their best. How many times did you hear artists that have decent length careers, how they make a reference to the first album being their best album? Completely deflecting and just throwing, 50's first album is like a gift and a curse, because it was such a massive success that he never was able to top sales-wise that success. But The Massacre was there, it had successful. Curtis was there, had certain successes. Before I Self-Destruct was there, had certain successes. It just never matched that first one because it was such a massive success. But he's wrong about the first album thing, because here's a perfect example. Actually, there's a few examples. Jay-Z, Blueprint is widely considered as Jay-Z's best album, not Reasonable Doubt. Eminem, the Eminem Show is considered Eminem's best album by a lot, by a margin, not the Slim Shady LP. I don't know. There's a few artists that are in that legendary category where their first album, Drake, the first album, Thank Me Later, is not considered his best. It's either Take Care, Nothing Was the Same. Those albums, usually Take Care. So it's the second album, not his first. J. Cole, 2014 Forest Hills Drive is usually broadly what's considered his best album. Broadly. Best sales, best album. And that was dropped, 3 albums later? Yeah, I believe Cole World, Born Sinner. Yeah, basically his third album is Forest Hills Drive. So I would throw that back and be like, nah, that's not true. Now, is there resistance to an artist? Yeah, after a while, people get tired of hearing you. There is a resistance. 50's past that point. People want music from him. He doesn't have that resistance. And he should have saw that. Like, I would say this in this interview. If I was interviewing him, I'd be like, you should see that the Kanan tape was a clear indication that there was no more resistance towards you when it came to music. And there was no more blackballing with Interscope. You weren't there. You weren't tied with them. It's been years later. You drop Kane and Tape. I'm the Man goes double platinum. Performs well. No Romeo, no Juliet does well as, again, does really good. Trying to Fuck Me Over did pretty good as well. Too Rich for the Bitch did pretty good as well. So he had records there that were doing well. You just stopped with the momentum. I don't know what it was. But then the guy pushes back again in the interview. He says, yeah, it's often because it's like a high. It's like that first high. But then 50 says, but that's what our culture does to credible artists. They go, it's cool, but it's not like the first time when I liked you for the first time. We don't never get a second chance. That's wrong. But I get it. People do say, hey, I liked his older stuff. But still, people still listen to Drake. People still listen to Kendrick Lamar. People still listen to J. Cole. Look at J. Cole, the numbers he's doing. Look at Kendrick Lamar, how he's winning. Look at Drake, how he's still, yeah, he's not as dominant as he used to be, but he had more of a run. Like, people still listen to Eminem still, like, to think that you can't have a run and you can't, 50 will never match Get Rich or Die Trying ever again in terms of impact stuff, but he can still have a great album to come out. That's the part where I would like, what are you talking about? But he pushes back to this interviewer's credit. Like I said, he says, going back to your thing about ageism, I wouldn't say that because like you got a Nas. Nas has dropped 4 or 5 crazy joints and people are still gravitating to it. And then 50 says, if you ask Nas and to compare what it feels like, those 4 or 5 joints versus what it felt like when his first album came out, he would say it's not the same thing. Who gives a shit? What does that have anything to do with you dropping music? Of course he's in a different time. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, when he gets asked about music, he deflects, and it pisses me the fuck off because this guy's either scared to drop because of sales, or he just thinks that nobody's gonna fuck with the music or that he's whack. He needs to say either of those things because you can't leave us as fans without a final album. That's disrespectful to us. And this is exactly what I would say to 50 if I was interviewing him. Sorry, my mouth is getting dry because all this talking. But you get my point. It's like, why are you deflecting? Why are you ignoring? Why are you just throwing random shit out there? Like, that doesn't even answer the question. He's talking about ageism, and he's like, if you ask Nas to compare his albums, he would say it's not the same thing. Of course he would say that. What the fuck does that have to do anything with drop music? He still dropped music. Who gives a shit? And then the interviewer says, oh, yeah, not the same thing, but yeah. But then he says, it doesn't feel the same to him because I'm telling you it's different. If you consecutively release material and you go out, I would say you're as hot as the last thing you did. Or if you're not generating interest in other platforms and in other areas, that's where it's at. So when I'm in front of you right now, I'm the #1 with 4 shows in African-American, Latino households for blah, 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 universe. So when you're able to create that as a standard, it's not like I'm going to fade, bro. It's like, it's going to be the award show. I'm still going to be in the jokes. I'm not in attendance because I don't release music this year. You see what I'm saying? Like, when you say they want to hear me say something, they want to see me compete with these guys. Even on my worst day, they can't be compared to me. So he's basically saying, hey, I'm still doing numbers regardless. And he is. But still, like, why? Like, music doesn't have to be about numbers, Fifth. It doesn't have to be about that. Why does it always go back to this? But yeah, so, and then the interview says, you're making yourself ineligible for the back and forth. And then 50 says, not only that, but how about this? How about Jay? When's the last time you responded to anybody? And he says little slick things, veiled things. And then 50 says that's when he's making a record and he's doing it for himself. See, when I'm putting out an album, I'll make all of that shit. You can hear all this shit then, which I'm fine with. I'll wait a year, 2 years for the response. I will wait. I have no problem with waiting for a response from 50. 50's earned that right. He's hit his prime. He has way more numbers than all these artists. So he has earned that right. He's not on a time clock. He's earned that right. He's beefed with people. So I give him that. I would say you have earned that right. And then the interview says, but we want to hear an album. That's what I'm saying. But then he says, but then you can make a reference to utilize everything that's happened because it's not new. The street shit, that's not happening. I'm rich as a motherfucker, bro. I'm not doing that dumb shit. I'm not going to jail for dumb shit. Yeah, but I'm just talking about the music, though, the guy says. Bro, what I'm talking about is we are in a new content era, a new inspiration is coming from, and then a new frontier is what the interviewer says. Right. 50 says, for new music, when I watch them get excited about is the mentality from 03, 02, the mixtape Fifth, and I'm in a different place. I couldn't have had all that success that you've seen if I was still thinking the same way. Yeah, and you've got to kind of be, I wouldn't say immature with these things, but it's too easy to describe it that way. But you've got to grow with your material at the same time, to grow in a different space and kind of offer something different. I get it, Fifth. I'm not expecting you to be this gun-toting, talking about banging nines and all this shit from 2002, 2003. I don't expect that. I expect you to be in a different. How about we get, and I said this before, we never got this album from 50. How about we get an album of you talking about your personal life, of you not having a relationship with your son, of people, like They Burn Me, that type of record. Like I want music like that. I want a more personal experience from 50. We never got that. Why can't we get an album like that? Why does it doesn't have to be the gun toting. And I get it. He's saying fans want that, but I don't even think fans want that. Yeah, do people praise the early 50? Of course, because that is an era that nobody's ever going to match. But fans don't, I don't think fans will be like, yo, if you're talking about toting guns still and you haven't done that, I don't think they would fuck with that. I don't think they would respect that. Why not talk about all these deals that you're doing? Like you had records where you're talking about your bankruptcy and how you flipped it and made money. Like you have records where you can talk about the last 10 years. From bankruptcy filing in 2015 till now in 2026, you got 11 years worth of material you can talk about. And yet you boil it down to, I don't think people want to hear, people are in love with the 2003 50. They want to hear that gun. No, I don't give a fuck about that. You don't even have to make one gun reference. Now, granted, I want one record at least, having that grimy shit in there. But still, you matured. You can make more mature music. You have that ability, 50. You're a great songwriter. You have that ability. But I'm going on a fucking rant here about this shit. But I just wanted to break down this interview because thank God somebody asked about the music and actually pressed this guy about the music for once in his life. You were talking about podcasts earlier. Do you see yourself getting more into that? Yeah, and then he talks about all this other shit. But yeah, like I said, I disagree with 50's take. As always, I'm a fan. I want music, but I just wanted to talk about that, go over it because it's ridiculous. 50 Cent and T.I. are back at it again, and this time it's once again about the verses. T.I. just wants to continuously battle this guy in a verses, and 50 wants no parts of it. This is nothing new, though. This is something that was brought up a couple of years ago from T.I., and 50 didn't want to do it at that time, and 50 doesn't want to do it right now. T.I.'s been doing a promo run for his new single, Let 'Em Know, and his album that's coming out pretty soon. And he appeared on Shannon Sharp's podcast and called out 50 Cent again to do a verses. 50 caught wind of that, and he decided to go in on T.I. and his former past, where he allegedly snitched and, was putting out Crime Stopper videos for Atlanta, which he had to do because after he got caught with all those machine guns, they ended up having to, do an agreement of, hey, you're going to get released, but you have to do community service. And this was part of the community service. So he posted that video clip of Crime Stoppers. And in the caption, he said, I know Atlanta pick and choose who they support, but y'all got to do better. LOL, keep my name out your mouth. And then in the second video he posted is T.I. in court, basically confirming that his friend got shot and killed. And it's not really him snitching, it's just him confirming, the events that happened where his car got shut up a while ago. And that's what led to T.I. getting all these guns and trying to protect himself. And then once he got caught with those guns, that's when he did the, prison time. And then he got out early and this, so on and so forth. And people thought he was snitching because of that. But 50 posted that video clip and he said in the caption, no, I don't like it. No verses. Let's do the stay away challenge and stay away from me. LOL. So 50's saying, I want nothing to do with, a verses because you are a snitch and I don't, work with snitches, which is hilarious because he's actually worked with T.I. before in the past. But this is kind of him deflecting the verses and going at T.I.'s character. Then T.I. responded on his Instagram and posted a video of him eating dinner with his family. In the caption, he says, 50 Cent, I don't fear my past. I'm too focused on the future. Top 20 in 2 weeks and climbing. Now let them know that I'm loved, not liked. So he plugs in his single and basically says, my past is my past. It's up there for everybody to see. It's not a big deal. Now, this is where, after this, I feel like this is where things got a lot more heated and a lot more personal. So there's a video that started surfacing around of T.I. calling Kevin Hart to set up a versus battle with 50. This is an old video. This is the first versus battle that T.I. called out 50 on, and 50 didn't want to do it. And that was reported on like years ago, 2-3 years ago, when versus was very, very hot and everybody was doing it. 50 didn't want to do it back then, so T.I. made a joke and was like, recorded a video basically calling Kevin Hart to set up the versus. And 50 saw that video on social media. And in the comment section of this video, he commented King Rat, because T.I. called himself the king, of the South. Well, T.I. didn't like that at all and responded to that comment. T.I. said this, 50 Cent, you playing on my name when only one of us a rat in real life. You know I got your paperwork right. My transcript is available online. Your excuses is useless. Get your whole ass in the box or shut the fuck up and live in fear. You soft son, you've lost my respect. Fucking duck. First, it's gotten way too personal. Now it's getting to the point where it's like, people are just attacking, each other's character. And 50 took it to that level with, bringing up the snitch and stuff. 50's made it very clear he doesn't want to do a versus with nobody. He doesn't want to go and do a versus at all. And I can understand 50's perspective because a versus doesn't really benefit the artist. And if it does, it's not significant. It can potentially do more harm than benefit the artist. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But the versus whole thing of T.I. versus 50, everybody has their opinion. I think 50 has the upper hand slightly. 50's records are just overall bigger, better. But really what the versus comes down to is the song selection, because you got 20 records you can choose, and T.I. and 50 have a lot of records they can choose from, and stage presence. The perfect example is the Lox versus Dipset. A lot of people before that versus started were picking Dipset because they felt Dipset had the bigger records. But you can tell Jadakiss took that over and just dominated, and it made Dipset look very bad. And a lot of people never looked at Dipset the same way after that. And that's the problem with versus, is an artist of the caliber of 50 Cent, of Eminem, of Jay-Z, of Kanye West, of Drake, of Kendrick, whatever. These high caliber artists who have a huge legacy, they stand to lose a lot more than gain. If they dominate that versus performance, what happens? They basically get a bump in streams, and people probably respect them a little bit more. But if they get squashed, they get dominated by the person that's doing a verse with them, they won't ever be looked at the same. Their catalog won't ever be looked at the same in a lot of people's eyes, and it just doesn't benefit them that much. And plus, it costs, for them to do that, Versus doesn't have enough money to pay them. They're going to be paying them at least $1 million each at minimum. And why would they take out their time to do that? And that's the way how 50's looking at it. And I'm sure a lot of artists that are high caliber are looking at it like that. Yes, would it be great for hip hop? It would be a great moment, of course. But the versus thing is just, there's too much that an artist can lose at that caliber to do that. It just doesn't make sense. So that's why I feel like 50's kind of ignored it and hasn't really wanted to do it. And what's funny is Jay-Z's been called out. He ignores it and doesn't want to do it. I'm sure Eminem, Eminem has never mentioned it, and Eminem's been called out here and there in discussions. Kanye West, Drake, but they never mention it. They never want to talk about it, and people don't get mad at them for it. But 50, because he's active on social media, he gets a lot more of the backlash of not wanting to do a versus, which to me doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. But the way I see it, like I said, it's about stage presence, and T.I. could potentially have a better stage presence than 50, and that's the way he could win. It's not just all about the records. That's why I say it's very close. It is a good versus, but 50, musically, when it comes to sales and all that, he's on a whole different level than T.I. 50's got 4 albums that have done over 1 billion streams on Spotify. T.I. has 1. If you look at numbers and all that, 50 just washes him by a long shot. And T.I. has way more albums out than 50. T.I.'s got I think 10 albums out. 50's got 5. So there's, 50's career might be shorter, but he had much of a dominant run. And I just think, this stuff that's going on with the personal attacks and the paperwork thing is interesting because it's what paperwork is T.I. talking about? Because the only paperwork that people reveal about 50 is the order of protection. And we know what that order of protection is. If you actually look into it, the studio engineer that was there when the 50 Cent and Ja Rule fight happened and 50 got stabbed and Ja Rule got punched and all this and everybody got into a fight, the studio engineer got attacked as well and got stabbed. So from the studio engineer's perspective, he has nothing to do with T.I., but he has nothing to do with Ja Rule or 50. He was there to do a job, and that's engineer the music. But he ended up getting attacked. So why wouldn't he sue, and why wouldn't he have an order of protection? I would have felt I was in that situation, especially because Ja Rule was at his peak at this time. I can get millions, potentially hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars from this guy because I got attacked. So when he ended up filing that order of protection, the studio engineer, he had to mention who was there with him when they were recording music. And it was 50 and Tony Yayo. So it's their names got attached to that, but they weren't the ones that filed it. And unfortunately, a lot of people just don't understand that. They don't know the law. They just bypass that, or they just hate 50 and think he's a snitch. So they just say, oh, it's by 50. So that's been proven by the police officer who said it was not filed by 50. Even the other detective who's hip hop police who said they tried to get 50 to talk. They tried to catch him anyway in any situation. He would never, slip up, never talk, So there's been proof from police officers themselves that said 50's never spoken. He's always hated us. He's never wanted to talk to us. So that, if you're talking about that paperwork, if T.I. is addressing that paperwork, that's nothing new. If he reveals something that's out of this world that we've never seen and he's got solid proof, then yeah, of course he can do damage to 50's career. It's not going to be a good look. But in today's time, I don't think people even care, to be honest with you, man. There's a lot of people that got paperwork out and people are doing perfectly fine. 50's way past that as well. He's doing movies and stuff. He's not on that gangsta shit anymore. But that's my take on it. Let me know what you guys think. I'm kind of over it. I don't really care about a versus. I mean, people bring up these conversations all the time. I really don't care. Would it be cool to watch? Yes. As a hip-hop fan, would I like to see a versus between T.I. and 50 or any of these artists that are, top tier? Of course. But they'll never do it. And you can literally mark my words. I'm telling you, you will never see Jay-Z on that stage. You will never see Drake. You will never see Kanye. You'll never see Eminem. You'll never see 50. Maybe you'll see Wayne, maybe T.I., maybe these other artists potentially. But those that I just mentioned, you're never. And I can put this in bold letters. You'll never see it. It just won't happen. It doesn't make sense for them. They're in a whole different category in their career. They don't benefit from it at all. So that's my take on it. Let me know what you guys think. Kendrick Lamar still holds the title for the most watched Super Bowl halftime show. So the numbers came in, and Kendrick's has still been the top one because they reported initially that Bad Bunny beat it, but it turns out that through Nielsen, they gave the data and basically showed that Bad Bunny's did not surpass Kendrick Lamar. So these are the numbers. An estimated 124.9 million viewers watched Super Bowl on Sunday, February 8th, according to Nielsen's big data. NBC's presentation of the Super Bowl ranks as the second most watched Super Bowl in history, behind the 127.7 million viewers who watched the Super Bowl in 2025. Despite the earlier projections suggesting 135.4 million, the official number came in at 128.2 million at the halftime show, behind Michael Jackson, Usher, and Kendrick Lamar. So Kendrick Lamar's numbers last year were 133.5 million viewers, while Bad Bunny's was 128.2. So he was beating him by 5 million viewers. So if you look at the previous couple of Super Bowls, you'll see that Usher did 129.3, so he did more than Bad Bunny. And then Bad Bunny comes after Usher. But the last 6 years, Rihanna performed, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Weeknd, and Shakira with Jennifer Lopez. The lowest was The Weeknd with 96.7 million. But yeah, the best was Kendrick Lamar with 133.5 million in the past 6 years. But yeah, big round of applause to Kendrick Lamar for still holding that title, because that is, a huge feat. And obviously it fueled with the Drake stuff. That helped, of course, because, when you're battling, that beef was huge in 2024, and Kendrick was just having a crazy year. And people tuned in to see if he was going to mention, Drake by his name, if he was going to play the record. So that really helped. It's one of those moments that I don't think can be recreated unless something like that happens again. There's a huge beef and the whole world knows about it. The only time that could have been ever recreated if it was 50 versus Ja Rule and then 50 performed Back Down during the Super Bowl halftime in 2004. That would have been crazy. That would have done insane numbers. But, the chances of that being repeated are very slim. So that's why Kendrick's going to hold that title for a really long time. I really don't, unless just the Super Bowl becomes more of a worldwide thing and then they get worldwide viewers involved. And obviously, because that's the whole world. But I know in America, I highly doubt that number will be beaten. So round of applause to Kendrick Lamar for still holding that title. Let's get into the Billboard Hot 100. And Choosing Texas is at number 1, Ella Langley. Number 2 is Man I Need, Olivia Dean. Number 3 is Ordinary, Alex Warren. Number 4 is I Just Might, Bruno Mars. Number 5 is Golden, Hunter. Number 6 is The Great Divide, Noah Khan. Number 7 is The Fate of Ophelia, Taylor Swift. Number 8 is Back to Friends, Somber. Number 9 is Folded, Kalani. And number 10 is DTMF, Bad Bunny, that re-entered this charts probably because of the Super Bowl, so that helped him out. Don Toliver, Body, debuted at number 14, so that's really cool. Shout out to him. He's doing numbers. The album's doing well, but I don't know what you're saying. She's foreign. Lil Uzi Vert, number 20 on the charts there. It went down a little bit because of all these Super Bowl and all these the Don Toliver album. Going down the list, WGFT Gunna, number 32. Chris Brown, It Depends, number 38. Let's see. T.I. let him number 50. Damn, that's climbed up the charts, man. Damn. Round of applause to him. Last week was 83. He's at number 50. That's dope, man. BX Plug, Hell at Night, number 52. ESD to Kid 4 Raw is number 56. Bunch of Don Toliver records, by the way. FDO, Pooh Shiesty, number 68. Airtime, Cardi B, number 69. That record's been hovering over that like 60 to 70 number for a long time. Pop That Thing, The Baby, number 74. That's climbing up slowly. Let's see. ASAP Rocky, Stay Here for Life, number 83. Lil Baby, Mrs. Trendsetter, number 89. Bruce Wayne, NBA Boy, number 90. And that's it for the Billboard Hot 100. And that's it for today's episode of the Diverse Mentality Podcast. Stream us, Spotify, Deezer, Podcasts, all that. Have an amazing night, day, whenever you listen to us, and peace.